Right. It's Trans Awareness Week. Last day, day 7. Uh, yeah, we have kind of got into Pokemon mode. But we still have one more manga to talk about, so let's talk about it. Today we're talking about a classic work. This is Double House by Haruno Nanae, who is probably more known as the author of Pieta, which is also a classic queer manga. So, this is a story of Maho and Fujiko. Maho is a trans woman. She works at a trans run bar. Um, and Fujiko is a gender non-conforming cis woman who have sort of fled her home, and the two end up moving in together and start developing feelings for each other. It is one of the very, very few published manga that involve trans women in relationships with cis women. With that said, it is not exactly a romance story. Double House is a drama. It is fairly serious about its subject matter. It's also fairly short. It's actually only 3, admittedly somewhat long chapters. The first 2 focusing on Maho and Fujiko, and the third one focusing on a side character who is also a trans woman. But even so, it is a fantastic story. Now, this book came out in, I want to say, 2000. Maybe it was even earlier than that, actually. It might have been like 99 or something. I should have looked it up ahead of time, but I didn't. But it's truly wonderful. It really also captures what we feel is the core inclusiveness that the queer community should have. Where, Fujiko, the gender non-conforming cis woman, she's the one who falls for Maho, the trans woman, seeing her as a woman and still very much falling for her as a woman. But it's also it's Maho, the trans woman, who takes in Fujiko, and they start, living together as a result of that, and it becomes this very nice domestic queer situation where, even though there are blossoming feelings of love, which I should mention don't really go anywhere because this is a very short story, it's still just really sweet and warm and comforting to see these things. The bar where Maho works is also really interesting and really inviting and inclusive and nice. And while we read this as an outsider, because we're obviously not Japanese and we don't live in Japan, we have been to Japan and we have been to various queer bars and queer clubs in Japan, and not to oversell them because we don't want to risk exotifying them, but in the best of those places, this inviting and very comforting feeling towards transness is something we felt as well. Now, obviously, it's been 20 years since this book came out, and there's been more progress since then. So maybe this book is a bit more idealistic in how it frames some things, and maybe we've just reached that now. But regardless, it is comforting, and it is just a really nice story about queer women. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say. Like, we can't even really like spoil it that much because like the spoiler is that the two of them have a domestic situation and get closer. Technically, they actually don't live in the same apartment. They actually live in two separate apartments in the same building, hence the name Double House. But they effectively live together. So yeah, do check this one out. Again, this is another one that has not been localized into English. Ever so often, you will see classic manga. That's the same manga that's been, out of print or out of serialization for 10, 15, 20 years. You'll still see those get localized every so often. In fact, when 7Cs do their surveys, they specifically tend to ask for, do you have any classic manga earlier than X date to request? And we think people should be requesting Double House because it's a lovely little story. And yeah, that's kind of it. That's been Trans Awareness Week. We have looked at 7 transgender themed manga. Some of them autobiographical, some of them fictional, and we're quite happy with the fact that we were able to pull this off. Now, obviously, tomorrow is Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is a important but sad and solemn day. We might be putting out a video for that. It won't be a manga recommendation video. But it all depends on how we manage and feel about things, because as we mentioned several times now, we are on a trip away from home, and we're not able to work on videos as much as we would like to, and we were already not working on videos as much as we would like to before that. And we're not just saying this because we have Pokemon to play. We can multitask just fine. But yeah. Thank you so much for having watched this little series of manga recommendation vlogs. We don't normally do unscripted content like this, so it was a fun little experiment. And as we mentioned, we will do this more in the future because we did enjoy this. If you like my work, if you want to help support us, we have a Patreon and we have a Coffee. There are links in the description to both. You don't have to, but if you do, that'd be awesome. You can of course subscribe and like the videos that we have put out. Follow us on Twitter at FeoUltima. And with that said, we believe that's the end of Trans Awareness Week and these little videos. So, see you next time. By the way, look at my cool Mewtwo shirt that my friend got me.